Okay, I had some technical difficulties, so I sincerely apologize for being late. Actually, I had a few technical difficulties. So here we go. I am live. So today I am talking about mood and hormonal balance and so some sort of hormonal imbalances as well, which is going to be brought up. So with that, I am live here. Say hello. You are in. Okay, so with that, okay, I'm just gonna pull some things up and now I'm gonna go live on Instagram. Here we go. Got everything. Am I live? Okay, yes. Here we go. Got it. Yay! All right. Hello, everybody. So I'm sorry if I'm going to be looking at two different screens because I can't put the camera right in front of where this is right here. All right. So again, thank you so much everybody for joining me today. And also for those of you who shared this. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be talking about this. Actually, someone and I, Leah, her name's Leah Smith, we did a clubhouse on hormones and emotions. So that's what we're going to kind of bring also next week. And I'm bringing a little bit today. It was an idea. So basically what I'm going to do today, just as I've been kind of touching on the theme of stress, since it is National Stress Awareness Month, I'm going to talk a little bit about what stress does to your body. I know I might be a broken record in this, but it is a really important message. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the hormones do, so particularly estrogen, progesterone, and yes, I'm not forgetting about you guys. You guys are going to be incorporated in this testosterone. But as I'm going to talk about, we do as women need a little bit of testosterone. I'm going to talk about the nutrients that you can include in order to help with the balancing of the hormones and any sort of mood changes that could be during your cycle. And then just in general, also for the males out there too, to keep your hormones nice and balanced. I'm going to talk about food energetics, particularly macronutrients, and then traditional Chinese medicine, and then I'll share a couple of recipes. So, with that, hello, yay. Thank you, Lisa, so much for joining me today. So I am going to talk a little bit about stress first. So our body is basically programmed so that it keeps a level of homeostasis so that everything is running properly. That's rest and digest. Everything is functioning properly. Your energy pathways are functioning properly. Your liver is detoxifying properly. You're digesting and assimilating nutrients properly. And more importantly, your brain is functioning properly. But what happens is that over prolonged periods of time, when we're exposed to too much of these stressors, so it could be from the environment, it could be from medications, any sort of chemical sensitivities, thermal, lack of exercise or too much exercise from the diet. But the electromagnetic frequency, that's actually been a big one now, is a lot of people have started to develop this electromagnetic frequency sensitivity where it brings them a little bit of angst. That is actually an actual stressor on your body. But I had talked about that one of the most important things that you want to hone in on is the psychological component. So that's going to be the mental stress. So, any one of those, if you have a bunch of them that are just going awry and it's over a prolonged period of time, stress in the acute is actually good. It's going to help us to develop more muscle. It's going to help us to be more disciplined. It's going to help us, our brain, to actually grow and create more neurons. So that's what neuroplasticity is that the little neurons are going and they're growing into different areas in your brain. It's super fascinating, but we can go into that in a different talk. But with that being said, once all of these things are go on for a prolonged period of time, that's where symptoms start to occur and your body starts to go from rest and digest to fight or flight. Your digestion and assimilation of nutrients starts to go down because your digestive fluids aren't being produced. So if then nothing's being digested, there's no way that you're going to be able to get the nutrients that you need to even elevate your mood. Magnesium and potassium are going to be decreased. So magnesium is responsible for calming you down, and potassium and magnesium are also important for smooth muscle contraction. So you could be getting cramping. This could be very important in heart health too. There's important B vitamins that could be depleted. That could be B1, B2, B3 that are really important for energy pathways. And then B6 is also very important for, that's the one that we're really going to hone in on today, is mood. Yes, B6 is very important for your mood, so you don't want that to be depleted in any sort of sense. Your iron could possibly be depleted. And then one thing that we are honing in on today is that the production of sex hormones could actually decrease. Now, why is that? Because your body is actually shunting the production of those hormones to producing cortisol or to producing androgens. So it would be estrogen in men, it could be testosterone in women, and it could even be more estrogen in women too, depending on the type that it is and depending on where it's going to. So overall, if there's that psychological stress, if there's the stressors from the outside, it could create this hormonal imbalance, and you can see it very much in your mood. Ladies, we all know this, that when it is around our time that we tend to get a little moody, our mood changes a little bit. So hormones do actually have a direct effect on our mood. So it's just like I was talking about a couple weeks ago, that our gut has a direct effect on our brain has a direct effect on our guts. So our hormones have a direct effect on our brain, but our brain also has a direct effect on our hormones. So it's really important to be able to manage the stress and then try to fix those areas that could be causing some problems, so that you start to calm the system down. And then also incorporating really vital nutrients that could calm the system down as well, which I'm going to go into right after I talk about hormones. So why are hormones so important, and what are the hormones and what do they do? So first of all, there is estrogen. Estrogen is really important for memory. It's important for bones. It's important for reproductive function. It's important especially for brain function, and it's important for keeping LDL levels nice and steady. It's actually very important for cardiovascular health. So it plays more of a role in just reproductive and mood. It's really important that you have that level, because too much you can get out of whack and you can start to see PMS symptoms, and that's where you can really start to get moody. But then if you have too low of estrogen, you can have memory loss, you could have bone loss. And here's an interesting one, is that lowered estrogen is going to equate to lowered production of serotonin, so your well-being neurotransmitter. So that's a big one, that if you have low estrogen levels, that can really affect your mood. I just want to touch on this a little bit, because I do work with active women, and if you're athletic or if you're active, this is commonly seen actually in endurance athletes and a lot of athletes. It's called the female athlete triad. And usually what happens in them is that their fat stores might be too low. So estrogen is actually stored in your fat cells. And if you have very low body fat percentage, so that could be physique models, that could be endurance athletes, that could be anything that is putting a lot of strain on your body, it can decrease your estrogen levels, and from there you can see memory loss. Your bones can actually start to get very weak. I can say this from personal experience, where I had low estrogen levels and I had borderline osteopenia at 28 years old because I was overdoing it. Your memory is just not working and functioning properly, and more importantly, you lose your period. So when you lose your period, that is not just, oh, hey, I'm losing my period. It is a telltale sign that there is something else that is going on in your body. And it's super important that you get those hormones balanced again, especially you want to be happy. Everybody wants to be happy. If it's affecting your mood and you're going to be crabby, I mean, it would be nice to have your hormones balanced. So again, with that, it could be a bunch of different factors that you want to incorporate in to be able to balance, either decrease the estrogen levels or to increase the estrogen levels. So we're going to go into that in the nutrients section. And then we have progesterone. So progesterone is responsible for sleep quality. It's responsible for reproduction. That one's really responsible for mood, as it actually increases the production of dopamine. So dopamine is your reward center, yes, and it is commonly talked about when there's addictions, but dopamine is also very important for focus, and it's very important for food. Well, you can see where my mind is right now. I'm jumping 2 steps ahead. Um, well, your mood is definitely going to determine the food that you're eating, but the food is going to determine your mood. All right, sorry, coming back to earth. Uh, it's definitely going to affect your mood. And it's also important for circadian rhythm as well. So your sleep wake cycle. So if your dopamine is low, your focus is going to be all over the place, and you could be like a bat, or I call it a lightning bug. And your mood, you're just going to be bleh. So it's really important that you have your progesterone levels balanced as well. It's also important for your appetite, learning, memory, again, is a big one. And it's an anxiolytic. So it helps to decrease anxiety. So it's really important that you do have progesterone and estrogen in a nice balanced level. So the problem is that when the progesterone and the estrogen tend to get low, that's when you can actually lose your period, and that could cause some sort of infertility problems. So you do want to make sure that it's not one over the other. But with that in mind, again, what happens with stress is that these two hormones are not going to be produced as much, because a lot of that production is going to go towards cortisol. And cortisol, yes, is necessary. It's an anti-inflammatory at first, but then it can act more as pro-inflammatory. So from there, I can't forget about testosterone. So testosterone is actually very important. It's not just important in men for their reproductive function, but it's important in women. It's important for cognitive function, for lowered inflammation, for better energy. It actually increases the hematocrit and hemoglobin, so those are important for carrying your oxygen through your blood and in your body, so it's going to help with your energy levels. It's weight management, of course, muscle growth and development. It's actually very responsible for mood. I'm going to go into that actually right now. So testosterone levels are very important for mood in men, and obviously it's going to be very important for them producing muscle mass. It's going to be important for their sexual activity as well. But the older you get, the lower your testosterone levels get. So men, when you are over 30, then that's when your testosterone levels start to decrease, because there's a little protein called sex hormone binding globulin that actually attaches to the testosterone, and then the testosterone can decrease. As I was saying before, if stress is increased by either all of these different areas or that psychological stress, then you could have low testosterone levels, and you could be a little ornery. Yep. You could be a little moody when you get low testosterone. So that it makes sense that the older that you get, if you are more on edge, it is because your sex hormone binding globulin is going up and it's attaching to that testosterone. So there are ways that we can use food actually and nutrients to be able to increase the testosterone levels, because that is going to be very important for men in general. But also for women, it can also affect their energy levels, and it can affect we still need to produce muscle as well, but because we don't have as much testosterone as men, we are not going to be producing muscle. There are issues. We don't want testosterone to be too high, because then it's going to create body hair. It's going to create, it's going to create a lot of muscle, and that's usually an issue in women that have PCOS, so that's something a little bit different. But I did want to go into a little bit deeper detail about that, is that, as I was saying, stress can actually shunt the production of sex hormones. So the production of testosterone can actually go to estrogen. And men, you do need that in a specific amount, because that does help your mood as well. But too much estrogen, you don't want that. And also too much estrogen. Estrogen, I'm going to just go back to that. Estrogen is like a fertilizer. It makes things grow. So it's really important for you to have it. So especially for your bone, for your brain, things like that. But then when the estrogen gets too high, that's when the breast cancer risk can go up. So that's where that comes. It's because it's just fertilizer, but you just want to have that in balance. So, what exactly can we do to be able to balance out our hormones and focus on our hormonal health? All right, so there are some nutrients that are really beneficial that you can incorporate. I personally really love beta carotene. Beta carotene can be found in anything that's orange, so yams, carrots. It's also in spinach, cantaloupe, your dark green leafy vegetables, and apricots and mangoes. It's very important for protecting the ovaries and very good for hormones. There's also there's beta carotene, and then there's also provitamin A. So vitamin A can be found in eggs, liver, fatty fish, and any flesh meat. So that's a little bit more potent in the body than beta carotene is, and that can cause issues if you have too much vitamin A. But the beta carotene, because of the conversion, you turn yellow before there's a problem. So if you're overdoing it on the beta carotene, it's just you turn yellow. But it's really important to incorporate that into your routine. Omega-3 fatty acids. So any sort of inflammation that's going on in your body can really have a vast effect on how your hormones are going to be produced. Particularly tryptophan and B6. We talked about that last week, which I'm going to go into in a second. That can actually be shunted into inflammatory proteins instead of making a B vitamin. And the higher the inflammation, then your body's not going to be functioning properly in general. So omega-3 fatty acids, there are plant-based sources, and then there are animal-based sources. So the plant-based sources can be found in flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, and hemp seeds. Those are probably the best, and walnuts as well. It's not going to be as potent in the body and as readily available because it does have to go through conversion in the body. So there's EPA and DHA, which are from the animal-based sources. You can find that in fatty fish such as wild-caught cod, wild-caught salmon. There's also grass-fed beef and pasture-raised eggs because the highest content of omega-3s is actually in grass, and they are able to break it down. We do not have the enzymes to be able to break down the cell wall in the grass to be able to extract all those omega-3s. So it's important that we do add those into our diets. So this is a very interesting fact. So when it comes to the time that women in particular that we are in our phases, about 10 days before our period starts, our calcium and our zinc levels tend to drop. Very interesting. So calcium is not only good for our bones, but it's very calming and it's very good for our brain. So what you can do, at least during that time, 10 days before you know that you're getting your period, is add in a little bit more zinc and magnesium in particular. Magnesium is important for the absorption of calcium. So magnesium you're going to find in anything that's green, broccoli, avocados, asparagus. I also really love pumpkin seeds. And pumpkin seeds, actually, you kill two birds with one stone. Adding in some sprouted whole grains and legumes and clams. Clams are very good for zinc. And this is not only important for women to add in and for immunity. This is also a very good antioxidant for and beneficial for men to protect their sperm count as well. So, men, it's very important that you are getting in proper zinc, and that is actually one of the nutrients that's depleted when you're under extreme stress or there's inflammation in the body, is that your zinc tends to go down. And actually, zinc is needed for the production of hydrochloric acid and for the digestion of proteins. So overall, zinc is super important for the processes. So you're going to need to be able to produce hydrochloric acid in order to even be digesting everything. B vitamins, as I was talking about before, stress tends to deplete you of B vitamins, especially B1, B2, B3. Very important for energy pathways. If your energy pathways are not going to be functioning, you're not going to have energy and you are not going to be one happy camper. I know when I'm tired, I'm not a happy camper at all. So it's going to be very important to add those into your diet. So B1, B2, B3 can be pretty much found in every single animal product that there is. So turkey, grass-fed beef, pasture-raised eggs, wild-caught fish, and there could be, if you wanted to incorporate that in, some sort of like grass-fed dairy. That's also high in B vitamins as well. For plant-based sources, there is nutritional yeast. That's also very good for B vitamins. The other B vitamin that I do want to pay attention to is B6. It's important for the conversion of 5-HTP to melatonin and serotonin. So that's going to be your sleep neurotransmitter, and it is going to be your well-being neurotransmitter. But it's also important for the synthesis of testosterone levels and just elevating your mood and energy as well. So very important. B6s can be found in avocados, bananas, yams are very good, oats are very good. Those are probably some of my favorite ones that are a good source of B6, and nutritional yeast is an excellent source. For amino acids, tryptophan, as I was speaking about that before, tryptophan is really important for the production of B3, so that's niacin, so that's important for our energy pathways, but it's also the precursor to serotonin, and we do need that B6 in there so that the tryptophan doesn't go towards inflammatory markers and goes towards those B vitamins. So this is actually going to be very important in the first few days of a woman's menstrual cycle, because right at the beginning of the menstrual cycle, your estrogen and your progesterone are going to drop, so that there's not going to be as much serotonin that's going to be produced. So it is important that you incorporate some good sources of tryptophan in there, and a lot of them I did cover already. So there's almonds, turkey, almonds actually is one of my favorite ways to get tryptophan in. There's organic peanut butter, bananas, avocado, and check this out. So if you just want to get the serotonin, chocolate. Yes, dark chocolate is a good source of serotonin. So incorporate that in during the first few days of your menstrual cycle, and then throughout that cycle to halfway up to ovulation, then the estrogen is going to start to peak, and then to the second phase it is going to start to decrease while the progesterone goes up. But I can go into a little bit of detail about that later. Another really important nutrient that you're going to need, vitamin D. You need vitamin D for the synthesis of your sex hormones, definitely. Not only just for your immunity. You also need vitamin D to be able to absorb calcium properly, so you need to get that in there. You can use the cod liver oil is a very good source of vitamin D, and there are some mushrooms that are treated with some sunlight to be able to produce the vitamin D. But what can we do just to get more vitamin D naturally? Go out in the sun, bask in the sun on the beach. And that's not only beneficial for getting vitamin D, but it also is very calming to your body. Grounding has actually been shown that when you put your feet to the ground, that it's very anti-inflammatory and it's very anxiolytic. So it's very good for you. So yes, go out there, go to the beach, walk on the grass, and get some sun. But then there's also compounds and food energetics. So I'm really into traditional Chinese medicine and also the compounds that can help. So one of the things that is a really big or talked about compound with estrogen and hormonal balance is phytoestrogens. So phytoestrogens, what they are is that they're estrogenic compounds that are in plant material that can technically mimic estrogen, but they just bind to the estrogen receptors. Now, they can have different effects on these estrogen receptors, which I am going to talk about a little bit in just a tiny bit. But one of them in particular, so soy is actually a very good source of them. Yams, flax, chickpeas is very good, and almonds are very good. And then there's herbs such as rosemary and thyme and sage. Those are some of my favorites. So what about the soy? That's a really controversial topic. So soy isoflavones are actually very anti-inflammatory, and anything that's going to decrease inflammation is automatically going to be very good for your mood. But they bind to particular receptors. But interesting thing is they actually do different things at these different receptors. So they're actually called selective estrogen receptor modulators. So it depends on what receptor that they bind to as to whether they are going to increase the amount of estrogen at that receptor or decrease the amount of estrogen. So it's really cool. I actually wanted to read something about that. I found an excellent article about this week. And especially, when estrogen tends to go up, we worry a little bit about breast cancer and then other cancers. So that's where they have been saying that if you eat too much soy, then you have to worry about the phytoestrogenic compounds because of this and increasing estrogen. So, excuse me. So this is what I would like to go into, that there are two specific receptors for estrogen. There's the estrogen receptor beta, and then there is the estrogen receptor alpha. The estrogen receptor Beta is strongly expressed in bone, cardiovascular system, uterus, bladder, prostate, lung, ovarian granulosa cells, and the testicular, serotoli, and germ cells. So, what exactly does that mean? That means that at these specific regions, they're going to dictate whether the estrogen is going to proliferate or whether the estrogen is going to stay calm and it's not going to proliferate and cause problems. So, and there's also a lot of places, particularly in the brain, where these estrogen receptors are, the estrogen receptor beta. And I just like to read this, that the nucleus of the hypothalamus, it's very dense in these estrogen receptor betas. It's a region important for coordination of reproduction, social, and stress-related behaviors. So, and it's interesting, it's also responsible for decreasing anxiety. So it's expressed in also higher levels in the forebrain, the hippocampus, and the cerebral cortex. So it could actually be beneficial that once that estrogen binds to that receptor, it can actually increase the estrogen at those places so that it can help with the mood and it can actually act as a neuroprotectant. It's super important. That's one thing that I left out, is that estrogen is a neuroprotectant. So you want to be able to have like a nice balance of that. So as you can see, that it depends on the receptor that it is binding to as to whether it is going to have an effect on raising estrogen levels or decreasing estrogen levels. So really including phytoestrogens into your diet are going to be important for actually balancing out the hormones in your body. I also really like Maca as well. Maca powder you can get from Navita's Organic. I put that in my yogurt, or I put it in my shakes. It's very good also for balancing hormones and for recovery too, as it's an anti-inflammatory. So how is it that we can use nutrition to help with hormonal balance? Well, I talked about last week with traditional Chinese medicine and food energetics that it's very important to focus on the vitality or the qi of the person. And if you are depressed, if you're stressed all the time, if you're not digesting things well, if you're cold, that's going to be another indicator as well, and you have a very high processed food diet, then that could indicate that there could be an issue with your spleen qi. So it could be your vitality. And what they recommend for the spleen qi is foods that are going to be very nourishing and very grounding, and not foods that are going to be excitatory. So these types of foods include any of your orange and yellow vegetables. So yams are extremely good. Oats, chickpeas, black beans. There's some mung beans and adzuki beans. I know you probably haven't heard of those, but you can always add those in. Variety is good for your gut anyway. Again, a little off topic. Apologize for that. There is dark cherries that are very good, and then there are the spices, cinnamon, ginger, turmeric, very soothing and very warming to the body, so it helps with blood stagnation and blood flow. It can help with depression, or it can help with digestion, and it can help to elevate mood a little bit too. These are very warming in nature. But with this traditional Chinese medicine, this can also be incorporated into a woman's cycle. This could be through seed cycling, so it depends that during the follicular phase, when your menstrual period starts, that's going to be the first 14 days. It's the follicular phase. You want to incorporate sources of phytoestrogen. So there's going to be pumpkin, hemp, flax seeds that will help with the estrogen levels. So that could also help with mood, as I was saying before. That estrogen is important for the production of serotonin. And want to throw chocolate in there too, as I was saying. Then after those 14 days, then you're going to go into the luteal phase from the 14th day to the 28th day. There's sunflower seeds and sesame seeds during that time, as the progesterone is starting to elevate, and then it starts to decrease and drop right before the period starts. With that in mind, another little tidbit from traditional Chinese medicine, and I think something that you can add into your routine, is honey. It has a very harmonizing effect, and it's very beneficial for somebody who's overworked and who is having menstrual problems, which is very important. Now, how about the macronutrients? These are going to be super important, especially for balancing hormones. And I'm going to talk about carbohydrates. So carbohydrates actually help to decrease cortisol levels. So that's really important to have like after a workout. It's very calming. It's very soothing. And then cortisol competes with pregnenolone, so it shunts the production of progesterone to produce that. and therefore it can actually, cortisol can decrease testosterone levels. So it's important that you have those warming carbohydrates in your diet. And also they're very important for fiber, and fiber is good for beneficial bacteria, so you're going to be digesting things properly. But fiber, actually, the third phase of liver detoxification is the elimination phase, and that's where you're going to get rid of that excess estrogen and those excess hormones. So it's super important. Um, but your intake should be from whole grains, beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, plenty of fruits and vegetables. But then again, you don't want to overdo it on the fiber, because if you are going to the bathroom too much, then you're actually eliminating too much of those hormones, and then you can cause an even more of a hormone balance. So it's super important to be able to have like a nice blend of a lot of plants, but then some meat-based protein in there too. And protein is actually going to be very beneficial for your mood. So adequate amounts of protein or lack of quality protein can actually lead to adrenal exhaustion, due to the fact that there's amino acids that are necessary just for adrenal function, and also amino acids that are necessary for hormone production too. So you need proper protein intake and proper nutrition, not only for growth, and you need higher estradiol levels, so estrogen levels. That's going to help with your mood as well as muscle repair. Very important. So again, protein, carbohydrates are going to be very important to have as part of your routine. So I think that with that, I pretty much covered everything that you can use foods to be able to help with balancing hormones and balancing the mood. So I'm just going to do a recap. What the stressors can do to your body is they can deplete you of certain nutrients. Specifically important for hormonal balance is zinc and the B vitamins, and magnesium. So magnesium you can include in any of the green vegetables. B6 is going to be super important for the production of serotonin, your well-being neurotransmitter. So incorporating some sweet potatoes, oats, organic peanut butter, it's going to be important in that. And then zinc, obviously, not only do you need that, men, you need that to be able to protect the sperm, but you need that for the production of hydrochloric acid, so that you're just getting these nutrients to be able to help your mood in general. Food energetics we're going to go into. So warming, calming foods, so spices such as turmeric, cinnamon, and ginger, as well as, again, your oats, chickpeas, black beans, yams, any sort of orange or yellow vegetables are going to be very good. And magnesium, of course, you're going to incorporate any of your green vegetables in there. It's very calming to the system. And then plenty of carbohydrates and plenty of protein. So with that, I just wanted to share a couple of my favorite dishes. So if you want to incorporate all of these in, a little bit of zinc, a little bit of the orange vegetables, what I really like is a pumpkin spiced oats, and top that with a little bit of honey and a little bit of pumpkin seeds. That sounds delicious to me. Or you can just have some fish tacos with some sweet potatoes on there, and you can put some pumpkin seeds on that as well. You could have some, let's see, oh, I'm trying to think of things off of the top of my head that I really like. Anything, like any sort of roasted vegetables, any roasted green vegetables you can add in. Green shakes are going to be amazing. You can put avocado, spinach, I call the gateway green. You can add that in, and it doesn't really interrupt the taste of any of the other components of the smoothie. And then you can have a good time with these. You know, what I really want you to focus on is having a whole food approach to this, and being able to have complex meals, so you have that really good source of protein. That could be from beans, nuts, legumes are very good for plant-based protein, and then organic and fermented soy is also very good, because as I was reading before, that's very good for phytoestrogens as well. Your complex carbohydrates, so your whole grains, your starches, like starchy vegetables like yams and potatoes too. It's going to be super important, and that's going to be super important for your mood, because tryptophan competes with other amino acids at the blood-brain barrier, and if you don't have carbohydrates, then tryptophan can't readily cross the blood-brain barrier to be able to produce the melatonin and the serotonin. So super important. Then of course, oh, I just got it. chocolate and peanut butter is going to make the world go around. You have B6 and you have serotonin and a little bit of magnesium. So that would be make your own peanut butter cups or flavor your own smoothies with peanut butter and a little bit of chocolate. I think that would be a definite mood booster combination right there. So I think that we have covered everything. Again, thank you so much. I was really excited about this topic because this hits home with me as well, that I've had hormonal imbalances and that through the years I've done a lot of research on this. And eventually I got my hormones balanced. But that's one of the things that I do work with. Just a recap of what I do, I am a certified dietitian nutritionist and a certified nutrition specialist. I work with active women to help them to get better energy, to lose weight, to detoxify properly, to balance their hormones, to better their gastrointestinal symptoms. So I'm really big on food sensitivities. And I also help to repair your relationship with food. So if that sounds like that's something that you need, I would be more than happy to speak with you. So please shoot me a DM or check out my website, www.redeeminglifenutrition.com, to see a little bit more about what I do. With that, I hope that you all leave with a wealth of knowledge and that you stay happy and healthy through the month, and that you start to incorporate some of these things in. If you do start to incorporate them in, definitely snap a picture and tag me. I am so excited when it comes to people's recipes. Like, that's one of my goals, is for people to get creative in the kitchen and not only to create these meals, but emotionally satisfying meals that are the most nutrient dense. So again, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will come to you next week. Take care, everybody.